Hey, what's going on? Melissa Kibler here, and today we're going to talk about how to cure that feeling of overwhelm and stress that you may have in your personal life, in your business. Give me a hand raise if you've ever felt that feeling before, the pressure, the overwhelm, the stress. We've all dealt with it at some point or other in our lives, and we're going to talk about how to really how to cure that feeling, because there actually is a way to cure that when you feel that in your business. So I'm just curious, what seems to overwhelm you in your business, in your life? What are some of the biggest stressors that you have or that you see maybe in your team or other people that, surround you? What are some of the things that, kind of make that feeling inside of you where you feel overwhelmed, or the pressure or the stress, because a lot of people, sometimes that comes down to, a fear that they have around a certain thing. Sometimes it's large tasks where we sit down and do our work, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, we see this big picture of all the things we have to do. And that's usually how it happens, is we see everything in front of us, like what we have to do, and it kind of freaks us out a little bit. And that can cause that feeling of overwhelm and stress and pressure. Sometimes it can be around some challenging situations. Maybe it's your finances or relationships or this or that. And it's like, holy moly, like I don't know where to turn to next. It kind of, what it does, that overwhelm and stress, like stops our actions altogether. Like we kind of freak out, we don't know what to do, and we're kind of left and we let that fear and that anxiety kind of creep up. Let me know if you can relate to this, because hopefully this training can help somebody out there that is feeling overwhelmed and the pressure and the stress that comes with our day-to-day life, personal life, and in our business. So we're gonna talk about the one thing that you can do to cure that overwhelm and stress. And I know I'm promising a lot, but trust me, this is what I'm going to share with you exactly is that cure to overwhelm and stress. So let me know if you're viewing live today. Let me know who you are and where you're viewing in from. If you're catching the replay, I love those replay viewers as well. Definitely say hello. I'd love to come back and just say hey to you as well a little bit later. So welcome if you're new to my page. My name is Melissa Kibler, and I help really leaders to get on the fast track to success using simple and effective social media strategies. I'm all about helping you build your teams with power and purpose, leveraging the power of the internet, really trying and helping you to work smarter, not harder. Now, when it comes to the overwhelm and stress, I work with a lot of students on a daily basis, and when they start to have that feeling kind of creep up on them, and they don't know what to do, and they kind of feel like, they tried everything, and they kind of get into that rut, and it kind of really brings you down at that point where it's like, I don't even know if I want to do this thing anymore, and you want to feel like giving up altogether. So the one thing, honestly, that helps with anybody when you get into that feeling of overwhelm and stress and that pressure is action. I cannot stress that enough, but it's taking action. And you might be asking yourself, well, what kind of action do I take? How do I take action if I don't know what to do or where to turn to next or who to turn to for support? What do I do at that point? And that can be any action, okay? Action can be anything. Now, if you're feeling exactly where you kind of feel like at a loss, where sometimes, I talk with some students in this space, and you get to the point of where you feel like you're going through the motions and you almost lack that self-identity. Hey Rebecca, how are you? Thanks for joining in live. Sometimes it's that kind of that identity crisis where it's like, what? I don't even know who I am anymore. Sometimes I don't even know if this is what I want. And we get so low and down on ourselves, especially when we're learning something brand new and we're going through the process and it's taking a little bit longer than expected. And we just feel like we're doing all the things, but we keep failing, right? And it's a very hard feeling to have to go through. So with anybody feeling like that, when you can take action, like any action, for example, simply when you're sitting down and you feel stuck in that overwhelming pressure, it can be as simple as getting up out of your chair, moving around the room, actually physically getting up and moving. It's even better if you can go outside and take a quick, short little walk. That chemical cocktail in your brain with all of those emotions, it does something to your brain. So honestly, it can be as simple as that action is just getting up out of your chair, walking around the room a couple times, and you're gonna be amazed, just doing that alone, coming back down to your seat and sitting down, you feel like, oh, I can breathe. Like that weight has just been taken off. And even if you're not clear on the answers and where to go, you just took some kind of action. What you did is you interrupted that thought in your head. So, meanwhile, while you're thinking like, okay, I'm freaking out right now, I'm totally stressed out, just that one action alone of getting up and walking around the room kind of interrupts that thought and that behavior process in your head. So when you sit down, you start to think a little bit more clearly. Now, you don't always have to go for a walk. Like if you don't have that option or capability to kind of get up and go outside, like I said, just walking around the room or taking any kind of action. So when you start to feel like that, you have to think about what do you seem to gravitate to that kind of calms you down. So some people that are into, meditating, maybe that might be, maybe you're meditating more throughout the day, just taking even just that 1 minute or 2 minutes to kind of like, all right, I'm going to sit back. I'm just kind of sit in silence and just kind of just breathe and focus on your breathing. For some people, it might be maybe that music, something that's inspirational to you. Maybe that has a calming effect for you, or a motivational video. Whatever it is for you, you have to find out what is it for you that kind of gets that calm back in you. But you're going to notice that you're taking the action. You're doing something to interrupt that thought and that behavior, so that way you don't feel that overwhelm and that pressure as much. So, once you have that, because, sometimes I get on these calls and I talk with students about having a plan of action and things like that, but sometimes we overcomplicate of wanting to know, okay, what are the exact steps? What do I have to do? Where do I have to turn to? So we're always thinking ahead and trying to control every single step of the way, as far as like, all right, now I have to plan, and what does that look like? What activities do I have to do? So rather than overcomplicating things, sometimes it's just taking a step back and taking a breather, going out for that walk, and then when you can come back, you can kind of have a plan like, okay, this is, what do I have control over, right? We can't dwell on what's happened in the past. That's not something we can change. We also have no control over what's going to happen, in our future, as far as like next steps and how things are going to play out. What you have control over is right now, and you only have control over the present. So after you get up, you take that walk, you sit back down, you take those breaths, and you feel like you're more in control. And then you got to ask yourself, okay, what might I do right now? What can I do? Because if we don't take any action, there's nothing to evaluate. There's nothing to learn from, right? So it's just kind of being willing to know your resources, know where your support is, having a plan, especially when you're building your business on social media. It's so important. I cannot stress that enough, to have a plan. I try to plan and pick one planning day at least once a week and taking a look at my schedule and going from there and knowing exactly what to do. So for those of you that get overwhelmed with like big overarching tasks and it seems like, oh my gosh, like it's so big, and sometimes we seem to push it off because we know how much time it's going to take us, right? Has that ever happened to you? Let me know. When this happens to you, make sure when you have a task like that you know you have to do. And if you find yourself procrastinating or putting that off, more than likely what you need to do is chunk that down into simple, more focused steps. So it's easy to say, okay, like if it's somebody that, if you're more advanced and you're looking to build an email list or things like that, you have to think, what are all of the steps that I need to do to make that happen? Well, maybe I need to watch a training first on how to take over my list, or a training to help me learn exactly how to do that or to set that up and things like that. Maybe I'm going to have to do, work on my welcome email first. So that way, this is for more advanced students, a more leveraged way of following up with their prospects and their leads that come in on a consistent basis. And then after that, you're working, okay, now I have that in control. Now I'm working on like a follow-up series with my email list. So you see how you take this big overarching task and you have to chunk that down, so that way it seems more reasonable. You're going to be more effective because you're going to see more in control of knowing, okay, here's my week, here's the time that I have, here are all the action steps that I need to take to make that happen, right? Same with, I work with students also that do a lot of advanced, paid strategies for their business as far as attracting their perfect ideal prospect to them. So I teach a lot of my students, sponsored posts. So what does that look like? Well, in order to be putting that out to attract your perfect prospect, you're going to have to do these things in this order. First, you're going to have to watch a training. After you watch that training, you're going to have to write some ad copy, right? You're going to have to practice writing that ad copy. You're going to have to find an image for your sponsored post and come up with a compelling headline. Those are 3 different things. And within ad copy itself, there's a lot of different formats that you go through to make your copy really compelling, to get somebody to reach out and say, hey, I can relate to you. I really like what you have to offer. Show me more information. I'd love to learn more. So there's a lot, you can see there's a lot of different components that go along with putting out a sponsored post to attract your perfect prospect. But rather than thinking of the big overall picture, which can be very overwhelming and very stressful, especially if you've never done it before, then you have to be able to work with somebody or ask yourself those questions and ask yourself, what are all of the things I need to do? Almost like a sequence from beginning to end to make that happen, to hit that desired result. And when you can do that and break that down into smaller chunks, you feel that pressure kind of go away, you feel like you can breathe again, and life is just great. So hopefully smash the heart, give me some likes and loves if you found some value in this today. Tag a friend if you know, hey, this friend can really hear this message today and learn from it, because there's so many people out there I know that just have so much pressure, that we often put on ourselves, and just the stressors and that feeling of overwhelm that comes along with that. And the biggest cure to kind of let that go is just take the action. Like I said, it can be as simple as just getting up and walking around the room, but then more, just taking action after that, so that way you have something to evaluate and test to see what's working, what's not working, what might you do differently next time. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. I appreciate you for taking the time out of your day and investing in yourself. And I'll be back again on the page tomorrow. So we'll chat again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.